Hello, everyone. Good afternoon, and welcome to another episode of Live at the Waterhole. First up, we're at the Vic Falls Safari Lodge and the Vulture Restaurant. My name is Ralph Kirsten, and what does the bush hold in store for us today? Well, you'll have to sit back, relax, and watch as the animals come down to quench their thirsts and cool off. And as per usual, please don't forget that this is a live and interactive experience, so we'd love for you to jump on board with us and send us through your questions and your comments. You can do that by going on the WildEarth website and registering. You can also join the conversation on X, formerly known as Twitter, using the hashtag WildEarth. What is it that you'd like to see? What would you like to chat about? Whatever it is, wildlife related, send it on through. And here we can see all of the vultures, the marabou storks, and everybody getting ready for feeding time. So we'll just wait for the very brave guide to come on out and give them their meat. And you will see they're pretty much like sardines. It really goes fast, and it's a feeding frenzy. So they'll slowly but surely be getting bigger in numbers and then get ready for the attack. Now, it looks to be a lovely, sunny, hot day, but with that being said, let's go and have a look what the weather's going to be like across all the different locations. It seems like a little bit of a mixed bag. There's sunny spots, there's also rainy spots, and overcast weather. So they're not going to be experiencing any cool weather here, though, at Vic Falls. Nice and hot, mid-30s or so. And so, fantastic day. The animals will obviously be getting a little bit agitated now, waiting for their 1 o'clock meal. You see white-backed vultures are probably the most dominant species here, and then hooded vultures. There might be some white-headed vultures in amongst them as well. The odd lappet-faced vulture, and then there's the marabou storks too. The old Grim Reaper, or the Undertakers, as we like to call them. So first comment we got coming through from Michelle saying, "Hi Ralph, love to see the action here." Lovely to have you on board, Michelle. And yeah, wait for the action. Maybe they're just waiting for all the tourists to get up onto the viewing platform before they throw the meat out. But the vultures sure are gathering. Might see a bit of squabbling between them as well once the meat gets thrown out. Everybody trying to get a piece of the action. So, and of course, we often get questions from viewers and guests about these kind of vulture restaurants. What's the purpose of it, and so on. And, well, it's because of the plight of these particular birds. And, well, there's a lot of poisoning that goes on from poachers and from indiscriminate use of chemicals from farmers. But let's watch. Here comes the meat. And away they go. Just look at that. That's incredible. And some dragging off and being chased by the rest. The marabou storks don't really seem to get much out of it. They're quite a bit taller than the vultures, and so they're a bit above the action. They're trying their best nonetheless. And Soul Shatter PWI saying nice to spend time with you again, Ralph. Lovely to have you on board, Soul Shatter. And Ants saying it's a feed-in frenzy. Absolutely. It's like a bunch of flies, really. And it doesn't last long. It's just a bit of a snack to help them, get through the days. Not really trying to feed them per se, just helping them along. So Mrs. Ferret asking, is there enough meat for all of them to get some? Not really, Mrs. Ferret. And as I say, it's not really the point of these kind of restaurants is not really to feed them per se, as I mentioned. It's just a little bit of an assist. So not everybody's going to get some each time, but the ones that obviously keep fighting for a little piece will get some. And it's just a bit of an helping hand. Mark Johnston asking, what type of vultures are they? Predominantly white-backed vultures. The bigger ones that we're seeing here are all white-backs. And then there's the hooded vulture, which you can see it's got, they're smaller birds, and their heads are a lot smaller as well. There's white-headed vultures that look very similar to the hooded vultures, but there'll only be a couple of them. They're not quite as common as the hooded vulture. And then those marabou storks, they're the ones that stand a lot taller, got much longer legs, and a much bigger bill. And it's a very straight bill as well. It's not hooked like the vultures per se. So they're not really able to cut into the meat and tear it. They just literally grab a piece and swallow the whole thing down. And just like that, there was pretty much nothing left. And obviously, you do see the individuals that as soon as the meat comes out, one or two of them will grab a piece and try and get away from the rest of them. But it's not really possible. There's just too many. And that's when you see them sort of moving off in different directions. Everybody just trying to steal it all for themselves. It's pretty much every man for himself. Bit of squabbling going on there. Further up. Wings outstretched. Bit of a fight going on now. Oh, the marabou stork off there on the right has just got himself a big piece, but I think the vultures have come in and taken it off him. Now there's still a couple of pieces of meat going around. Obviously they've got to pull it off the bone, so it does help that it's not as easy to get the meat, but it does get shared around a bit more. And some already starting to move off, but others still fighting over the scraps. You can see what I mean there with the marabou storks having much longer legs and a higher center of gravity than the vultures. It does make it a bit more difficult for them. So as quickly as the action starts and the chaos ensues, quiet has resumed. A couple of little pieces I think still around. That's what they're all just walking around looking out for. So Adam asking what other birds are popular here. Well, as we can see, it's pretty much dominated by these vultures, and it's all centered around this vulture restaurant, as we call them. But we can hear some other birds. I've heard some blue waxbills, a very high-pitched little squeak. And listening out still, sounds like there may be a green-backed Cameroptera. Coo, 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 coo. But I think most of the birds will be getting out of the way of these raptors and this meat that's getting eaten. Alright, now that the action has subsided, I think time for us to move on and let's change of country completely. Let's head to Kenya and Oldonyo. And we've got a nice view on some Maasai giraffe. They're just underneath the umbrella thorn off to the right of this little waterhole, which is very well visited by elephants, giraffe, lots of different birds. And sometimes during different periods, we get lots of zebra, eland, fringe-eared oryx, impala, the yellow baboons. And so just a lovely waterhole, this. And yesterday we watched the highlights of when there was an incident with an elephant bull that was in must. And he maimed a bull giraffe, seemingly for no reason. But the reason behind is that he's in must and 60 times the levels of testosterone of a normal individual. So he literally would fight with just about anything. And unfortunately, that giraffe got in his way. And we have had reports that the giraffe, as a result, has died, which is sad. But I wonder the feast that ensued there. As you can imagine, you saw those vultures and they throw the meat out there. It will be quite similar when a giraffe dies. As soon as the scavengers and the opportunists realize that there's meat about, there would have been everything from hyenas to lions to jackals and caracal, whatever else. As well as the vultures. So we don't quite have a view on the area where that animal died, but I can just imagine the chaos that is happening there now. So, and Ants was saying, look at that little one. Yeah, it was a bit of a smaller giraffe there, but nothing small about these guys. Yeah, at the waterhole itself. All with beautiful tusks. I don't think any of these is our individual called 1 ton, but they are beautiful individuals nonetheless. The Old Boys Club. Hopefully nobody's in must here, otherwise we might see a bit of fighting. And we often get asked about elephant, bulls, and must, by viewers as well as guests, and what is it all about? So I found a lovely little article on wildlifesos.org, and they speak of everything you need to know about must. What is it? Must, which is M-U-S-T-H, is a completely natural phenomenon seen in healthy adult bull elephants. Both tuskers and maknas, or tuskless bulls, I think that's an Indian term for them, generally characterized by the secretion of a hormone-rich substance called temperin from the temporal gland, and this comes on either side of the elephant's head, and a steady trickle of urine down the back legs of the elephant. The must involves a rise in the reproductive hormones in the elephant's body. And this causes the animal to feel more restless, energetic, aggressive, and unpredictable. Also generally irritable and oversensitive to sounds and movements. Must is seen in healthy adult bull elephants. How long does it last? Is the length and duration of must a sign of health? Must is a natural and healthy phenomenon in adult bull elephants. And if a bull elephant goes into must, it is generally considered a sign that he's healthy. And it typically lasts between 2 to 3 months and occurs in 3 stages: a 3 to 4 week pre-must condition, a 4 to 5 week peak must, and a 4 to 5 week post-must condition. For elephants in captivity, though, the condition and its duration can vary greatly. Deprivation of food and nutrition can cause the elephant to go into must less frequently and for shorter durations of time. For bull elephants that have easy access to nutritious food and are in good health, must can last much longer. And records of healthy bulls in captivity have shown them staying in must sometimes even more than a year. But general, with wild populations, if everything's going well, so it can be a little bit changeable. But generally healthy elephant bulls, that's sort of the kind of flow that happens with them. So completely normal, and it's this raising in testosterone is 60 times more the normal levels that really makes them aggressive and want to fight with just about anything. And you'll see other individuals that understand what must is about. They can probably smell it and see from the body language as we do as humans. And as guides, we need to pick this up because we need to avoid those big guys because they'll look for a fight with you as well. So it's important just to know that. And the elephants know all too well to keep clear of a bull in must, especially if it's a big adult like one of these guys. So generally, when you see these individuals like this, you would assume that none of them are in must because there would otherwise be agitation and aggression between them as well. So an ant's also saying those tusks look sharp. Yeah, they're reasonably sharp. I mean, they are rounded on the end. But as we saw with that bull that attacked the giraffe, with the force that gets pushed behind it, it very quickly turns into a kind of a spike. So, yeah, even though it's not extremely sharp, it can be made as such, just with the force that comes from these big animals. Now, Stephen Rousseau has asked, is it true that elephants in must secrete a foul-smelling secretion? And to answer that, Stephen, I quote from Wikipedia, and they speak of the elephants in must and the secretions. The elephants in must often discharge a thick tar-like secretion called temperin from the temporal ducts on the sides of the head. And that's just behind the eye. So you can very often see it. It's not only when they're in must, so it's not a telltale sign that they are in must. It's that leaking behind the back legs. But temperin contains proteins, lipids, notably cholesterol, phenol, and 4-methylphenol, cresols, and sesquiterpenes, notably farnesol and its derivatives. The secretions and urine collected from zoo elephants have been shown to contain elevated levels of variously highly odorous ketones and aldehydes. And the elephant's aggression may be partially caused by a reaction to the temperin, which naturally trickles down into the elephant's mouth. Another contributing factor may be the accompanying swelling of the temporal glands, which actually presses on the elephant's eyes and causes acute pain comparable to severe toothache. Elephants sometimes try to counteract this pain by digging their tusks into the ground. And I've seen many elephants actually doing this, bulls, when they're in must. And I always thought it was just out of pure anger and aggression. But this now makes a lot of sense in that they're actually in pain. But to answer your question, Stephen, you can literally smell when an elephant's in must. Sometimes you don't even see them. You just smell them. And I've had this both on vehicle and on foot many times. Obviously, when on foot, it's a real eye opener because you want to get out of the area. So it's quite nice to remember because elephants in must smell really musky. It's a musky smell that you get, and it's really pungent. And it's obviously down to these different proteins, lipids, and phenols, and all of that, with all their derivatives, etc. So must is linked to sexual arousal or establishing dominance, but this relationship is far from clear. Wild bulls in must often produce a characteristic low pulsating rumbling noise, known as the must rumble, which can be heard by other elephants for considerable distances. And this rumble has been shown to prompt not only attraction in the form of reply vocalizations from cows in heat, but also silent avoidance behavior from other bulls, particularly younger or juveniles and non-receptive females. So this suggests an evolutionary benefit to advertising the actual must state of the bull. And a grisly outbreak in the 1990s of rogue elephants goring over 100 rhinos to death without provocation in 2 national parks in South Africa was attributed to dysfunctional young males, translocated survivors of incomplete or non-herd-based culls of elephants at another overcrowded park, growing in the absence of older males and prematurely entering must. The South African ecologist and ranger Gus van Dijk, who thought of the idea of reintroducing older males into the park to prevent younger males from entering must, noted that no further rhinos killings were observed once these bigger bulls were introduced. And a must elephant, whether in the wild or otherwise, is extremely dangerous to both humans and other elephants, and obviously to other animals like giraffe as well. In zoos, bull elephants in must have killed keepers as well as other bull males, female elephants and calves, in the last usually inadvertently or accidentally. Zoos keeping adult male elephants need strong purpose-built enclosures to isolate males during their must, which greatly complicates attempting to breed elephants in zoos. So most zoos that keep a single elephant or a small herd typically have only females for this precise reason. So there's no speaking sense to an elephant bull in must, and that's why we just generally try and avoid them and mimic the elephants themselves, because that's exactly what they do. So Martin Bushmad was asking, why do some animals lap water and others sip or slurp? How do you differentiate the need? So actually, Martin, it's whether a species laps or sucks or slurps the water depends upon the shape of their mouths. Now, carnivores like cats and dogs will lap the water because they simply cannot form their large mouths to form a suction the way that elephants do with their trunks. Obviously, they're very well adapted to drinking, but also the likes of the antelope, the giraffe, and all the other herbivores do as well. And when we see with birds, and I often discuss about there's certain groupings of birds that can literally drink water because they have a gullet. So they don't need to raise their head. And those groups are the doves and the pigeons and also the bustards. They will drink with their head down and suck and swallow the water without having to raise their head. Whereas all the other birds don't have a gullet, so they need to literally scoop up water and pick their heads up so that it will go down. Now, Gilroy1 was asking, do they pump water into that water hole? Yes, they do, Gilroy. There's a little spot just over on the left, near to where these two have got their trunks intertwined. The water seems to come out of there. It might actually come out of 2 points. Over there on the right as well, it seems like they prefer those two exact spots. So normally, when elephants do prefer a spot to drink from, it's where the fresh water is coming out, because they are really water connoisseurs and prefer the nice, clean, fresh water than old, stagnant water. If that's all that's available, of course, they will drink it, but they have a real preference for nice, fresh water. And Uncle Earl saying 4 males in close proximity with large tusks, you never know what could happen. Absolutely, Uncle Earl, but with this kind of relaxed behavior, you can pretty much assume that none of them are in must, and when they're out of must, they are generally nice and relaxed. But as you say, you never do know what's going to happen with wildlife. So Spaz Lankov asking, it's World Water Day as one of the most water-dependent animals in the bush. What do you think about the loss of natural water holes in the bush due to the effects of the climate? Yeah, it's a difficult one, Spaz, because you speak of changing climate. No 2 days are the same. No 2 seasons are the same. Whether we're going through a period of heating, being maybe a little bit closer to the sun, whatever it might be, these natural areas, there is natural springs, there is water availability for them, but it's nice to see that here next to the Old Donyo Lodge, that they are bringing the water to the surface here and have produced a permanent water hole for the animals. And elephants really require a massive water amounts on a daily basis. So it's important to have a lot of water availability. And that's pretty much what limits the populations of elephants, is literally the water availability. Secondary being the food, but primarily the water. If there's good permanent water availability, the elephants will always do well in these natural areas. And if they're not able to migrate, well, then we need to, as the people that have enforced the enclosure of the elephants, we need to supply them with good water. Normally pumped from underground, from boreholes, and then supplied on the surface. And a lot of the water holes that we go to would be natural, but a lot of them would be seasonally, full of water. So what they've just done is, because we've enclosed them, contained them, we now just maintain those water holes as permanent as well. But yes, we have fluctuations in rainfall, sometimes higher than average, sometimes lower than average. We'll go through periods of drought. We'll also go through periods of excessive rainfall and flooding. So, with a lot of these species, it's just about how well they are able to adapt to change. And that's how evolution occurs. It's change over time, and they need to adapt to changes in the environment, as well as the next species. So it's those species that can adapt to the change and survive through the difficult periods that will sustain their populations. There seemed to be a little bit of a disagreement there for some other reason. Not quite sure what went on, but something happening between them here. Unless there's another individual arriving, I'm not quite sure. So Ant's asking, Ralph, have you ever been chased or otherwise on the receiving end of an elephant in must? Yes, many times. And sometimes wittingly, sometimes unwittingly, mostly unwittingly, that I've just bumped into an elephant that's in must. And those are the times when it's the sort of the scariest because, you're driving through, you come around a thicket area or whatever, and he has this elephant in front of you, and as you see him, you realize that he's in must and he's already coming at you. So I've had to evade many elephants on vehicles, mostly, but we've also had to escape from elephants on foot as well. Most notably up in Makuleki, or the Pafuri region of the Greater Kruger National Park. And we've been lucky that in those instances, we've been pretty close to sort of koppies or a little bit of hillside and rocks, that we've been able to clamber up onto the rocks and get some height and get away from the bull that was pursuing us. And I've had to do that a couple of times. Trees aren't really useful in getting away from elephants because, obviously they can just push the tree over. So that's something that we do use when we're on foot and we get surprised by black rhino or buffalo. And I've had students and guests up trees and have had some wonderful encounters with the likes of elephant and rhino from that nice heightened position with the animals running around below, still trying to get at us. But never used that method with elephants because it is of no use. So luckily been nearby to areas where we could get up and away from the elephant. But one of the encounters that I did have was actually just recently, a few months ago, on Amakala Game Reserve. And I had one of the bulls that I drove towards him. I saw him from a distance and I drove near to him, and as he saw me about between 50 and 80 meters away, sort of turned from his feeding and immediately came towards the vehicle. So I switched the vehicle off, and here he came all the way towards us. And the way that he was walking, I could already see that he was in must, or at least coming into it. And I mentioned that on the show, on I think it was the Sunset Safari. And he came right up to the vehicle, and I spoke to him in a stern but relaxed voice. And he came up to the side of the vehicle where the cameraman was. And he actually put his tusks in under the little ridge of the buck, is what we call it, at the back of the Land Rover. So he just hooked his tusks underneath that, and he lifted up the side of the vehicle. At which time I just banged on the side of the Land Rover and shouted at him. To which he got a little bit of a surprise. He put the vehicle back down, and off he strolled. And ever since that little altercation that I had with him, every time I've seen him after that, and he hears my voice, he ignores me. So I think he doesn't like the words that I said to him. But anyway, that's what's required sometimes. So it is possible to turn some of the elephants when they are even in must. But there are some very strong-headed individuals that just won't be turned and need to be avoided completely. But yeah, each encounter is different, and you've got to be really careful with the bulls when they are going through this period of 60 times the normal levels of testosterone. Can you just imagine? Looks like a superb starling just sneaking a little drink in there on the right-hand side. I think it is a starling. Quite a number of little birds coming in. There might be some cutthroat finches in amongst them. There's an emerald spotted wood dove. There's often the makwa doves as well that come through. So Soul Shatter PWI saying it would be so cool if there was a way to listen to the elephant communications that are outside of our hearing range on these live cameras. Yes, Soul Shatter, absolutely. It would be incredible. But I'm not sure what this kind of audio devices would look like or how much they would cost, etc. But how interesting would that be if we could actually hear what these guys are talking about? I'm sure that there's a lot going on. And I think probably up to, I would definitely say the majority of what they're saying and the noises they're making that we can't hear. So if only we could have that, that would be incredible. Now, some people may have seen on social media, there was a video that went viral recently of an elephant that accosted a game viewer, but it was one of these bigger game viewers, a Toyota Dyna, I believe, and it can seat anything, I think, between 20 and 30 people in the back. So it's quite a commercial game viewer, and this was in the Pilanesberg, and unfortunately for the guide, I think he came across a elephant bull in must, and the bull elephant. If anybody has ever been to the Pilanesberg and some commercial areas of the Greater Kruger Park, they do have these big commercial game viewers, and sometimes the activity and the behavior of the guides is very untoward, especially in these vehicles, because it's a little bit of a sausage factory and people are just racing to get to sightings. People come for day safaris, or they don't have much time, so they want to try and get in as much as possible. So it's a bit of a Ferrari safari and driving from sighting to sighting, and what we call jeep jockeys. And so these guys are, moving through the bush at pace, and they do irritate the elephants a lot. I've seen it in person. I've seen it many times. And I think sometimes the elephants have enough. And I think in this particular instance, this elephant just got one back for himself. I'm sure that he's been irritated many times by those kind of game viewers. And I've seen that they don't like that particular type of game viewers as well. So he lifted up the front of the vehicle. The guide is shouting and hitting the side of the vehicle. The elephant just, with such ease, lifted the entire front of the truck and threw it in the air. It bounced back down. And he was having none of what the guide was shouting at him. And he did it again. Eventually, the guide actually had to back up from there. Nobody was hurt in the incident, but it has been going around. And I'm sure that there would be some questions surrounding this. That's my take on it. And I've seen that elephants, they do have a level of, taking nonsense from guides. I've seen it in many different game reserves. And eventually, they do get enough. And they react accordingly, especially once they go into must as well. As you can imagine, with that much testosterone and an irritation comes past that you've been meaning to have a word with on many occasions, and those are going to be the days that they're going to do it. So I think that was it. I don't think it's a problem animal in any way whatsoever. I think more the problem animal is those kind of commercial game drives where it's just a race to get to the different sightings. Yes, it still does have a big economic input, but those are quite cheap safaris as well. So it does then allow the general public and locals to be able to go and see those animals. But yeah, the elephants do have a level of understanding, and once that's gone, then they take it out on it. So that's all that happened there, and nobody was hurt. So an Ants was saying that those two on the right seem to have been having a private conversation. Yeah, it looked like it, eh, Ants? And now it looks like the three of them have disappeared off together and left this one on his own. Probably definitely say that this elephant is left-tusked, with that one on the left being well worn compared to the one on the right. And here comes a Maasai giraffe to come and join this solitary elephant bull. Seemingly not in must, hopefully. And let's hope that he doesn't accost this giraffe. But I would say he's happy-go-lucky and he's not in must, so it shouldn't be a problem. But we can also understand now why the giraffe are so nervous next to the waterhole. I think I may have mentioned it earlier, but yeah, lots of people always asking why they're so nervous. The elephants are always just so relaxed. Well, it just takes one incident to remind us why. So the oxpeckers have just flown down from the giraffe and taking a drink. They're not quite as scared of the elephant as the giraffe is, so they don't need to be as patient. But I think that giraffe just hanging off on the right and going to wait for his chance. See, there might just be a little bit of a slow trickle, which you can actually see there where that elephant's trunk has been. So I think it's just slowly extracting the water as it's being pumped out into this water hole. Right, so we've just had a couple of guest speakers on the show in the last couple of days, all to do with the Wild Water campaign. And today being Wild Water Day, it's culminating. So we have another guest on today, and this time it is Nicola Gerard from Love Africa Marketing. And she'll be joining us. Hello, Nicola, and welcome on the show.
Hello, Rolf. Hello. Thank you so much for having me.
So, Nicola, you come from Love Africa Marketing. Do you want to tell us a little bit of a background there and what exactly you guys do?
So, yeah, we are in South Africa, in most of our team in Durban, KZN, or KwaZulu-Natal, which is on the east of South Africa. And it's a small team, and we are a marketing and communications company that specializes in conservation and awareness across Africa, and then in tourism as well. So basically two sectors, tourism and conservation, and we do all things communications, strategy, film, and marketing. So very, very, very passionate about that. And basically looked at my passions in life and thought, how can I make a business out of this? How can I basically make sure that I don't work, doesn't feel like work every day, and for Africa and tourism and conservation, and I managed to have a really nice team to join me in that. So thanks for having me. This of all your live sessions and your game drives through the book. That's us.
All right, thanks for that, Nicola. Just a little bit of issues on your audio, so I think they're just going to try and sort that out, and we'll get you back as soon as that's fixed up.
Okay.
Now, we saw that Turco here again, and I've seen it for the last few days. Now, I think there's 3 Turcos that occur in Kenya, being the Hartlaub's Turco, the Great Blue, and then the Black-billed. I think, I'm not 100% sure, I'm not as clued up with the East African birds as the Southern African, but I think it may have been a black-billed. We'll try and get a closer look the next time one of those little beautiful birds, well, they're not very little actually, comes into frame. So this bull really taking his time now. I think previously when all the others were here, it was all about discussions and what's going on in the environment around them and whatever other conversations were to be had. And now he's getting down to the important business of having a drink. All right, so it seems like behind the scenes, the technical guys have sorted out Nicola's audio. So we'll welcome her back. And Nicola, I'd like to ask you a little bit about your clients that you do have at Love Africa Marketing. I see that you guys do represent the Rhino Army, the Project Rhino, Blood Lions, Ranger Protect, and most notably, and with our water in mind, Ocean Impact and Wild Oceans. So could you tell us a little bit about the work that you do for these guys and exactly how that all comes together?
Sorry about the technical issue. I hope it did me a little bit better now. So basically like I said, we do work on the communication side of conservation and environment and tourism, travel across Africa. And so we have clients or partners across Africa. Probably a large part of what we do is the mental side of things, environmental awareness and advocacy. And one of our clients in particular is a mental NGO in South Africa called WildTrust. And they do a number of arms. They've got the terrestrial side, and then they've got the ocean and then estuaries side of what they do. And they've got the inside or under the marine side is our 3 campaigns called Sharks Under Attack and Ocean Impact, and then On the Brink. So in particular, which is interesting, a really hot topic from the environmental things at the moment is Ocean Impact, which looks at marine protected areas across South Africa, looking at where and basically measuring, how much are we consuming within our waters. This is offshore, inshore, estuaries, and putting that under conservation and working with is on the outside of those areas and looking to conserve. Everyone is also benefiting from that. So from our side, the big aim across the is trying to grow these protected areas, trying to put more land under conservation and working with people secure these areas, because obviously, our population growing, which makes and puts pressure on these escapes. So our role is basically campaigning and creating awareness for the marine space, and working with various stakeholders and government policy to areas and grow it. So when we started, at one point South Africa had only 0.4% of our oceans around South Africa that were protected. If you can imagine how small, and to grow quickly to protect, marine protected areas are like an game reserve, where a haven of an area where species can
apologies, folks. Just a bit of those technical difficulties with the audio. So once we've sorted it out, we'll get Nicola back and we can get the story loud and clear. But in the meantime, it's back to the action with this giraffe taking its chances with this bull elephant. Seems very relaxed and content with the nice fresh water that's coming out there. Taking his time, and hopefully the giraffe has no problems. Now, something that's always interested me, and I've been asked it quite a bit as well from guests and viewers. Why do we say that an elephant is in must? And this word M-U-S-T-H. It's not a particularly English word, M-U-S-T, sure, but this word is foreign as far as I'm concerned. And it seems like it's actually a late 19th century word that it comes from Urdu or Persian, and it actually means intoxicated. So that is the origins of the word, and obviously you can understand why it's been applied to elephant bulls in these sort of hormonal changes. And when that happens, they are intoxicated upon them, as well as on the testosterone that comes with it. So that is the origin of the word must, M-U-S-T-H. Actually see quite clearly now those toenails on the elephant. No claws, it's actually nails, and sitting up nicely for us there. All right, so we're going to welcome Nicola Gerard back. It seems we've sorted out her audio problems. Hopefully it goes well this time. And she's from Love Africa Marketing, and just telling us a little bit about what they do. Nicola, what is the sort of news from Love Africa? It seems like you guys have been around for 10 years or more. And what's the latest project that you guys are busy with?
Hi, Ralph. I hope you can hear me now a little bit better. I'm not too sure what's happening there. Can you hear me?
Yeah, loud and clear. Go for it.
The latest project is pretty exciting, actually. I don't know what you got of my last conversation around marine protected areas and us protecting 5% of our general marine space around South Africa. So the latest project is a short video or short film and campaign on 30 by 30. I don't know if you've heard of that before. Basically, it's a global conservation target that has been set to protect 30% land and ocean by the year 2030. And that is to help mitigate climate change and biodiversity, or protect biodiversity. And so there is a huge global push to protect, to put land under conservation, to protect our environment. So we are working on a bit of a video or a film for that, and there will be a campaign that will come out certainly on the South Africa side for in the next few months. And yeah, so we went out and we chose a game reserve called Reserve here in KZN, KwaZulu-Natal. Like I said, on the east coast of South Africa. And they have been chosen as a case study for protected area growth, where it's a really beautiful story where it's 20,000 hectares, of which over 70% was invested by 3 community trusts, and and with a private donor, formed a collaboration and a partnership, and basically had the vision to create this game reserve, which obviously comes with it's a really good eco model in terms of protecting the land and creating really good economic support for the area. So this was a really good example of public-private partnerships. And so in January, we went out and did some filming and drove around. And, you know, when your film brief says biodiversity, you really are driving around filming dragonflies and frogs to elephants and trees, and then obviously the tourism model as well, and the lodges, and basically that nature-based tourism model. So it was a really fun, long day. And then obviously coming back and editing that, and it's actually going to be screened at a conference next week. And so, yeah, South Africa is the first country to look at a implementation plan for protected area growth to try and match that target. So, yeah, we're excited to be part of the storytelling around that. I think that one of our big challenges as Love Africa is trying to create awareness and trying to tell a story on fairly complex issues, and trying to simplify the messaging to send out to the public, and empower them with knowledge around it. You know, if people aren't aware of what's happening around them, then how can they care? So I think that's our big role in terms of all that. That's our driving force at the moment. So that's the latest. And then on the far end of the tourism side, beginning of January, we filmed a world record abseil in Lesotho, which is a country within South Africa. But again, connecting with nature. The film was actually called Raging to Nature, and it's about bringing people closer to our elements, and getting them to appreciate it. So those were the two big projects, but lots on the horizon.
Well, that's incredible. And yeah, I'm going to have to look out for that. What did you say it was? Raging Water.
So Raging to Nature, which is the short film. We produced it with our tourism partners, Simon Kong Lodge, which is in Lesotho, and it is a world record abseil next to the Malosonyane Falls, which is the longest single drop. What's the longest single drop abseil? 196 meters. So we did and we filmed it in January, and the water, talking to water right now, it was raging. There was no other way I can put it. It was flooding. It was very interesting conditions to film. And we had equipment and a very brave crew that we basically threw over the edge of this cliff and said, get the best shots you possibly can. And so they descended, and everyone keeps asking me, did I do it? And yes, I have done it. Thank you. It was the craziest thing I ever did. Done. But yes, 200 and yeah. It was the falls itself, 196 meters, and it was flooding. So we actually only managed to shoot that in one day, even though we were there for about 5, because the water was just too high. And it was about, connecting with nature and getting as close to it as you possibly can by abseiling next to the waterfall. And that was the Jono, the owner, that was his big thing as to why he did it. So that was one of our short films beginning in January.
Wow, that's incredible and sounds wonderful. Yeah, I'll have to look that up. And I know all too well about abseiling. Those first 2 meters are the worst. But from that height that you went from, I can only imagine those first 2 meters must have been pretty horrid. But well done on that. And yes, just a bit of a fun fact about Lesotho. Do you know that it's the country with the highest low point in the world? Meaning that the lowest point in Lesotho is over 1,000 meters, and there's no other country in the world that has that. So it's pretty much a mountainous country, as you mentioned, within the confines of South Africa. And great to get some publicity there for the country of Lesotho and the natural areas within that. I've guided in the Tsehlanyani National Park. I led an expedition out there. And we went, I can't remember the name of the falls, but there were 3 falls in conjunction. The one led into the other, and we hiked up next to this. It was absolutely stunning. And obviously, a big part of the inspiration of J.R.R. Tolkien's Lord of the Rings, being the Drakensberg. But a lot of South Africans don't even go into Lesotho, so great for them to get some marketing and some exposure. So fantastic. Yeah, and I see that also you guys, I mean, not only with that kind of video production, but doing a lot of marketing strategies and campaign management, social media management, environmental awareness, the professional photography, artwork creation, media strategy and press coverage. Wow, so you guys are a really encompassing business. And I know too well, having my own little tourism company, and I do say little, although I consider myself a specialist in the field, I know how difficult it is to get your name out there and to have your sort of brand pushed out. And I see that it's great that you are really involved with environmental organizations and helping them do exactly that, where they may be the specialists, but it's a really sort of busy market, and lovely that you guys have got obviously hoops of experience in this field, and it seems like you guys are doing great work for all these very important organizations.
Yeah, thank you, Ralph. I think we are passionate about the tourism side of things and the wildlife and the conservation side of things. I think often it doesn't always come, a lot of the NGO sector, and obviously tourism, especially post-COVID, it doesn't come with massive budgets, or there is always some kind of funding or budget issue. So, it's really is trying to, just to say that this is the thing. Lots of these sort of businesses or organizations come with the best stories, and really sort of on the ground grassroots stories that you really want to tell. So we do try hard to tell a good story, and try and fit in with the budgets there. So it is driven by a lot of passion, and I think like I said earlier, it doesn't really feel like work when it's passion driven, but we work with really, really good partners, and I think sometimes in the environmental side of things, you can sort of look at the news and you look at the headlines and you think, gosh, everything's falling apart, and what are people doing, to fix everything? And there really is, it might not be too obvious every day, but there really are some amazing people and amazing organizations doing incredible work behind the scenes, from on the ground to all the way up to a government legislative point of view. So there is definitely hope, and I think where we come from is the awareness and basically creating a voice for these companies, because firmly believe in knowledge is power, and being able to create change through awareness and change and behavior change. Because I do think a lot of the responsibility rests with people like you and I in making these decisions. So I think, or making change, even if it's a small thing. So yeah, I'm really passionate about bringing these sort of on the ground stories out and finding effective communication tools to do that, because obviously everything now is film and video and social media, and trying to tell a good story for the online world.
Yeah, absolutely. And it sounds like you've got an ice cream van going past you there. Are you going to head out for a quick ice cream?
Can you hear that? Can you actually hear that? I could die. Like,
well,
I hear I'm talking about the bush and I'm sitting in suburbia. Oh, no.
So, but yeah, I mean, coming back to that, with all these organizations and conservation initiatives, etc., when we studied conservation, it always boils down to one of the first quotes that we learned when we started was, if it pays, it stays. So, I mean, all of these organizations need to be profitable in some way or another. You can call it a non-profit, but it's always got to be financially viable. Otherwise, they won't, continue to exist. So, and that goes from expenses to paying people to bring their time and their resources, etc. So, I mean, companies like yourselves that are assisting in these marketing strategies and implementation of all of these different campaigns, I think it's a really important piece of the cog, because without it, the organizations will cease to exist.
Yeah, that's exactly it. I think that's my constant battle, especially in the sort of NGO environmental side of things, where absolutely you need to sort of have money for the projects on the ground, but equally it's ring fencing budget for awareness and communications, because ultimately, if people are unaware of what's happening on the ground, then how is there going to be a change? And there is so many amazing projects on the ground, and people need to know about it. So yeah, I think it is a really, really important element, and I think you see it more and more now, though, where the communications angle is getting its time to shine, and people are prioritizing and ring fencing budgets to tell these stories effectively. So it's better than it used to be. So yeah, it must just keep going. And unfortunately, yeah, it is tricky, because a lot of these, the film side of things, it's not exactly a cheap sort of marketing tool. It does come needed with a slightly heavier budget, but it really is an investment for long-term awareness. So, yeah, I think the ice cream guy is gone now.
That's it. Well, he's told his story. You're obviously not going for an ice cream, so off he goes for the next one. So I mean, when you bring that back and you look at sort of when organizations approach you with a conservation campaign and they want to put it out there to the public, I mean, is there a way of selecting that you do or choosing which kind of campaigns that you're going to get behind? Or is it just on a ad hoc, singular level where you pick and choose as they come in? Or is there a focused strategy from your company in picking which guys that you actually campaign for?
Oh, definitely. I think that, well, first of all, from the Love Africa marketing side of things, we do get approached, and I think at the heart of it, we as a team need to believe in what the organization is working towards. We need to believe in the offering or in the project. We want to work with amazing people. So first of all, we do have to choose in a way who we work with. And it is such a highly complex, at times, the conservation side is such a highly complex industry. And so, yeah, that's the first thing, is that we do make sure everybody aligns on the vision. And then it's a bit of both. It's ad hoc projects, and then sometimes it's sort of long-term partnerships where it's sort of marketing and awareness for a company. But I think with campaigning and environmental awareness, the common conversation is, what is the end result? What are we aiming for in terms of, are we looking at mass awareness? Are we looking at legislative change? Are we looking at trying to get funding? And then it's, often with the stuff that we work on is all those levels, and then having different strategies per level. So your members of public, how are we going to hit them? What tools are we using? Which cities? And where are those people sitting? Are they watching TV, reading newspapers, online? Which type of online platform? And how old is this target market? And then it is, generally with any kind of marketing, it is choosing key messages. It's choosing one or two very strong messages or strong statements and driving that hard for as long as possible, because I think we're all bombarded by messages every day from all over the place, that you really kind of have to choose a refined message and really drum it hard for quite a long time. And that's where we got involved in film. On one aspect, it's quite a powerful tool to do that, because it gets the message across quickly and hopefully with a bit of emotion, and people hopefully remember it. I don't know if but yeah.
So yeah, and just then for the viewers, if anybody's interested, just to go and have a look at loveafricamarketing.com and have a look at all the clients that are involved with Love Africa Marketing, and obviously assisting in putting their message out there, and also exposing their organizations and what they do. Very interesting in all the different clients that are involved there. So go and check it out, loveafricamarketing.com. So it's really interesting, Nicola. And well, is there anything else that you'd like to mention about the kinds of work that you guys are doing, and specifically related with those clients that you have around water? I think with it being World Water Day, then if we look at the wild oceans and the ocean impact, I suppose that's a lot to do with all the marine protected areas. And the improvement of the dismal protection areas that we actually do have in South Africa. I know that you touched on it a little bit earlier, but maybe we could go a little bit more in depth with that.
Yeah, so we, under Wild Trust, like I said, we are working in collaboration with them with 3 campaigns. And one is Ocean Impact, that looks at marine protected areas, of which also includes estuarine areas, inland lakes, growing that protected area space, and working with governments on spatial planning and that kind of thing. Obviously, we look at the communication side of things. And then there is Sharks Under Attack, which looks at shark and ray species in particular in our waters. And then a similar campaign is called On the Brink. So it's called On the Brink of Expansion, On the Brink of Extinction. And again, that looks at also sort of spanning of these areas, and then the key species in our waters, in particular shark and rays and chimeras. So if we just focus on your big species like sharks, so the big part of that was really creating awareness around how endangered sharks are, and certain species are, and how important our waters are in protecting them, and being a safe haven for sharks. And Sharks Under Attack was really a spin on really how humans are the cause of persecution, and not the other way around, despite this massive fear that people have for sharks, and really just going, I think we launched that campaign. We actually looked at stats, around playing with stats around how toasters and livestock, cows, kill more people in a year than sharks do. And we actually did a little short clip actually on Durban beachfront, where we wanted to showcase the world's most dangerous predator, and we did a little video on that, and really we had a huge cardboard box that we covered with a black sheet, and we put it on the beach, and we interviewed people who were walking past, and we wanted them to guess what was in the box. First we asked them what they thought the most dangerous predator was, and we got everything from snakes to sharks, crocodiles, sharks, and towards the end of the whole thing, or each interview, we pulled the black sheets, and of course on top of the box were just mirrors, and so people just saw their reflection in the mirror. And so it was more of a realization that we are the cause with overfishing and targeted fishing and trawling and oil and gas. So just really sort of exploitative use of our waters. So it's that kind of awareness that we're just trying to create, and especially with the youth, sort of making simple, toning down the message, and really targeting all sorts of people, but really some of these campaigns have a big focus on the youth, because that's where it starts, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I think it's a massive fear that we have for sharks, and it's a crazy fear, because most people have never even seen a shark in their lives, but they're scared to go in the ocean because they may be bitten by a shark. And it's probably a lot derived from television and the likes of Jaws. And I did hear a story that I'm not sure if it was the producer or the director or the story writer of Jaws was actually post the movie, because of this fear that has been created of sharks now and the indiscriminate killing of them now as a result of this. He's actually been involved in shark conservation and is actually regrets putting this movie out because of the fear that it's created. And it's been enormous. I mean, I think it's changed people's perception of the ocean and bringing a fear to them. But I think we've also got to, think of the reasons why we are having more shark attacks wherever they do occur. First and foremost, we have to say that there's more people in the ocean than there ever have been with the population increase. So the statistical chances of more people getting into contact with sharks and potentially being bitten by them has increased massively. So that's just natural. And I just think it's crazy that people are not scared to get in a car. And I mean, if we look at South Africa, we have one of the highest death rates on the road, but they're scared of sharks in the sea. And many times I've been going out for a surf and the guys are saying to me, you know, they've driven up into the parking lot and they ask me, aren't you scared of sharks? And I'm like, I just point back at them and I say, I'm more scared of that thing you came in. So, and they normally can't understand it. But for me, it's irrational. It's an irrational fear. And from fear, we then obviously, you know, want to murder them, which is what generally occurs. That's the one side of it. And obviously then you're saying the fishing and the indiscriminate targeting of just random species and the bycatches, obviously, that they get with it. But it's all as a result of human consumption. So we're all part of the problem. We all have to eat, and we all have to eat a range of different food items, and fish being one of them. I think we chatted about it yesterday. I think the biggest way that you can help with that is to not buy from the big corporations and rather try to support locals who are obviously bringing you fish from the local area. And not only that, it's not that indiscriminate sort of netting of just every species that's in the area. And then those bycatches, which are not allowed to bring onto shore, so they just pretty much dump them overboard because of licensing and bureaucracy. So I think there's many, many pages to this book, but I think at the end of the day, we're all to blame, and we all got to look at and help and assist these kind of organizations that you guys are representing in trying to conserve the waters, as you say, in Lesotho, in the fresh waters, from there to the oceans, and just changing people's perception of the animals that occur there.
That's it. I think, just going back to the youth, for example, is, like you say, the movie industry has really damaged. While it has created amazing awareness, it really has caused some perception issues. Like, you look at the Lion King and you look at the hyena and you look at the Jungle Book with the snake and the tiger, and you look at just these basic nursery rhymes with the wolf. And just this age, we're not really helping that perception of key species. So that all, again, you don't realize you're creating awareness around these species right from a young age. So it's all kind of trying to reverse that and create more of an understanding. And again, with awareness becomes knowledge and the power to make better decisions. So that's where we have quite a long road to go with the sharks and again, like you say, the marine estuarine side of things. Most people it's such a foreign concept. It's not people that live near the ocean or in touch with the ocean, or people that are not around water. So it's trying to create awareness inland. So the more you disconnect from it, the harder it is to understand. So it's kind of our main goal is bringing those messages through to people that are quite far removed from it, and it's very tricky.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's why WildEarth is fantastic in that sort of quest as well, because showing wildlife in a natural environment, but not only that, live and not edited or pre-recorded. What you see is what is happening right now. And we've, I think, educated a lot of people that had perception-based realities of a lot of wildlife. Elephants are scared of mice, and that they eat peanuts, and all of these kind of random things that people learn from television that is completely false. And ostriches sticking their heads in the sand. But it's great to get the questions from people and for them to be able to be witnessing, even if they're not able to go out into the wilds themselves, to be able to witness this stuff live and then to interact with specialists in the field, and getting these these perceptions changed from what they thought was the reality, and now being shown as something completely different.
Yeah, I think it's been unbelievable, the WildEarth model, and basically bringing the bush to people that wouldn't necessarily have access, and playing a really, really key role in that. I think it is. I think WildEarth in particular have done an exceptional job there, and the live safaris, of course, is just brilliant. So. Yeah, it just makes me a bit jealous. So I sit next to the ice cream shops here, and we do get into the bush as much as we can. But yeah, watching the sessions and seeing the leopards and the elephants, and while I'm in my house, it makes me a bit too jealous, to be honest.
Well, sorry for that, but we'll continue on doing the work, as I'm sure we'll do. And, well, Nicola, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on board. And as a fellow conservation soldier, I wish you all the best in your quest and with Love Africa Marketing. And just once again, for anybody that's interested, to go and have a look at the lovely work that they do, and very important conservation work, I would say, go to loveafricamarketing.com. Nicola Gerard, thanks very much. You go get that ice cream. Thanks a lot for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Rolf. Thanks, everyone. Cheers, eh?
Ciao, ciao. Now, back to our stationary terrapin. He's here at Rosie's Pan in the Olifants West Game Reserve, which is in the Greater Kruger. And it looks like there's a spot of rain, which is fabulous, because we can use all we can get. And with it being Water Day across the world, how more apt could you get? A couple of the birds coming into their favorite drinking site on the right-hand side here. The petilias, the mannikins, the waxbills, the firefinches, and of course, there we've got a starling as well. Sounds like a Cape scrub robin, not a Cape scrub robin. I'm thinking now down in the Eastern Cape. A white-browed scrub robin, I think, is calling. That beep, 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 beep. One of the true songbirds, as are all the robins. And they're the ones that make real tunes. So whenever you hear a bird that's making a wonderful tune, it's actually literally a song. Those are, you can normally sort of go towards the robins, where they are the sort of perfect song masters. And so a nice way to get you towards that when you're trying to identify a bird just by its call. There's a chin spot Battis with a partial call. He's going chin spot. He's not doing the Battis, but that's him calling. Oh, Terrapin's decided to change off position. Is he going to plop back into the water, or is he just going to turn around? Let's see. Maybe he's got his solar panels. They're fully charged. He might be off for a bit of foraging. So we haven't had the luck of the Irish today. There hasn't been any predators around, albeit it is overcast and a little bit drizzly. So there is still a good chance. Maybe we'll get a last-minute leopard. Who knows? But does bode well for the naturalists out on the sunset safari. The predators may be active a little bit earlier than usual, with it being cooler. So just zoning in on one of our very common residents around all the different waterholes. I don't think there's one waterhole that there isn't a blacksmith lapwing, and normally in pairs, but they seem to be the guardians of the edge of all the waterholes. You can hear the little blue wax bills calling. That's how that lapwing got himself something, but didn't quite like it. Now that kind of whap, 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 I think is a white-crowned shrike, if I'm not mistaken. Can't see it, just heard it. But I'm pretty sure, a white-crowned shrike. In the Newman's book, I always like looking up how they describe the bird calls, and they describe the white-crowned shrike as uttering a curious quap quap sound. So, going on that, I'm pretty sure that was a southern white-crowned shrike. And it's also quite interesting that in Afrikaans, they actually call it a cremetart laksman, which is a cream tart hangman, which is the direct translation, because all of the shrikes obviously being laksman in Afrikaans. And once again, if I'm not mistaken, I do believe it's a hangman. So he's the cream tart hangman, because he does look a little bit like, or have the colors of cream tart. So unfortunately, heading towards the end of the show, but as one door closes, another opens, and you'll be heading on to the Sunset Safari. So don't go anywhere. There'll be lots of action coming your way. As I say, a little bit overcast in the greater Kruger area, so who knows? Maybe those predators will be nice and active. That's what I'm hoping for, and well, I'm sure the guys will do their best. Let's hope they find lots of spots, and lots of hyenas, wild dogs, lions, maybe even a cheetah. Who knows? Maybe you'll see 3. What about that? But yeah, thanks for joining us, folks. I hope you've all enjoyed the discussions, especially around Love Africa Marketing and all those wonderful organizations that they represent. Go and have a look. And well, once again, we'll be back again at it tomorrow at 1 o'clock. So we hope to have you back once again and firing away with your questions and comments. And who knows what the African bush is going to bring to us once again. You never can tell. The only constant, as they say, is change. Well, that's it from me for now, folks. Enjoy the rest of your day, and especially the Sunset Safari. Bush greetings. Cheers.
Hello, and welcome everyone. My name is Amy, and of course, behind the camera with me is Paul, and we are here to discuss the highlights of the last 24 hours. This is On Safari. Now, today we have a lot of cool stuff in store for you. We've actually got 6 different